Yes, so it's Jimmy and Forrest at the helm because Matt on the 25th of February 2024 is not on the show. That's okay. We've got some fairly good calls. I did one last night, which really amounted to another argument from ignorance, something can't come from nothing, etc. And ended up with, well, you won't let me finish. And that one wasn't really too impressive, but I did decide to review it as I'm going to review this one. So we've got Anthony calling in. Just one thing though about last night's show, I've really noticed that some of the hosts imitate Matt a lot. Forrest does it sometime. I've noticed that Jimmy's doing it quite a lot more now. He does this thing where near the end of the call, he'll ask a question to the caller and say, "Now, if the first words out of your mouth are not an X Y Z, I'm going to hang up on you." Well, Matt does that too. I'm not really sure whether that's a good one. So I'm not really sure whether it's a good strategy to put it like that, or at least it may well be with Matt, but it looks a bit, it doesn't really look too good that Jimmy is now imitating a lot of the things that Matt does. He's got his own style and he should probably stick to his own style. He shouldn't be shouting "shut the fuck up" either because he hasn't got the voice for it. He's got too high pitched a voice and it just sounds a bit silly, really. Yeah, so Anthony, he's called in really with a similar kind of argument. Something can't come from nothing. Forrest has asked him a very good question. We don't know. We just don't know. We're still compiling. We're still collating. We're still gathering information. Why do you have to leap to the explanation that a god did it? Okay, so here's Anthony's answer.
I would say because when it comes to the areas that we haven't confirmed yet, an intelligent mind seems to be a much more plausible explanation than natural forces. And you brought up a lot of points. Well, I'll get to that. But
okay.
First of all, you brought...
Oh, I don't like that. Honestly, he made some claims there. He said that in the areas that we haven't yet fully explored, a mind, an intelligent mind, a being seems to be the most plausible explanation. Forrest asked a very good question. He asked the only question really which is pertinent here. Why? Why do you think that a god is the most, or why do you think that a mind is the most plausible explanation to fill in the gaps in areas that we haven't yet fully accounted for? Why? And he says, well, I'll get to that. No, he should have been put on the spot. No, let's get to it now. This is the whole point of the call. But unfortunately, they went on. Let's listen for a bit longer, then we'll skip forward.
You brought up some really interesting things that really interest me. I know you mentioned stellar nucleosynthesis more as a side point.
Real quick, Anthony, are you on a phone or are you on like a computer?
Okay, we're going to stop now because the next minute is about the quality of the call. Okay, I'm going to move forward to next stage of the call.
Like, I've looked into stellar nucleosynthesis, and
okay,
I don't want to dwell on this topic for too long.
Okay, stellar nucleosynthesis. Wow, he's done some research, hasn't he? He must know what he's talking about. Okay, stellar nucleosynthesis is the creation of chemical elements by nuclear fusion within stars. Now, I wonder what about that convinces him that God is a more plausible answer than just purely natural forces.
The point you were making, but when you said we know that the atoms, the chemical elements are basically manufactured in these stars, I question that, because when you say we know, that's like direct observation, but I think it's more, we're getting to this idea of...
No, I don't think that when we look at the evidence in physics, it may not be direct observation because you can't be there when it's actually happening. Being there when it's actually happening would be direct observation. And if a theist says to me, "Oh, you haven't got direct observation for your scientific theories," well, you haven't got direct observation for the existence of God. So, but we have got evidence. We don't arrive at conclusions simply from direct observation alone. It can be the case, but we also have evidence, and luckily with physics we can look back billions of years at by looking at evidence which we've got now, we can extrapolate back. So this to me is just a fallacy. He's on a fallacious road.
What do we really know? It's epistemological. We theorize that these things happen, but I don't think there's any way to prove that the chemical elements are created in stars unless you have some other information for me.
Anthony, this is the type of argument that only pedantic religious people make when they use terms like we theorize. Yeah, we have scientific theories that are based on observed facts. Have we been to the inside of a sun? No. Have we demonstrated that of certain masses, heats, all these sorts of things, that this is what you should expect, and then also measured and basically gone, and if that was true, you would find this, this, and this here in these places. You would measure this from these stars.
It's a pity there's not a particle physicist on the show who could probably explain in more details how that fusion works and how we know to a very high level of confidence that actually that's how it happened. I'm not a physicist, I can't explain it, but there would be a physicist who could come on. I think there's another physicist who comes onto the line. Unfortunately, he's not there today. He could have really nailed this and explained why we know to a very, very high level of confidence that this is the way that certain elements formed in the early stage after the Big Bang in stars by nuclear fusion. I think that it's a more exact science than he actually is giving it credit.
Yes, we have.
But nevertheless, his alternative is God did it all. God created all the elements, etc.
Theories are, that's the highest. If there was a hierarchy, theories are the...
Okay, let's move on. Okay, yes, just one more thing about stellar nuclear synthesis. Even if we didn't know, or even if it was completely debunked and falsified somehow, I would still not leap to the belief in a God, because several hundred years ago, when we knew hardly anything compared to what we know now, there were rational atheists around who were saying, we don't know. No, we don't know where everything came from. We don't know why there are different elements. We don't know how things were made in the universe. We have to find out. We have to keep exploring and answering those questions. And just simply plugging a God into that gap of knowledge is not rational. So even if it was the case that it wasn't good science, but I think it's more reasonable. I think the evidence is there. I don't know enough about it to comment on it, but I think the odds are that actually we've got very, very good reasons for believing that stellar nuclear synthesis is actually correct. Okay, so now he's moved on to the theory of evolution. He's claimed that there's empirical evidence that it's false. Let's see where that goes.
Of artificial selection. And so, like, when you say the empirical evidence doesn't agree with it, this is one of those times where the whole look at the trees thing actually works in our favor. And I wonder what you're actually you're actually talking about, because it sounds like when you say empirical evidence, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you actually haven't seen any evidence for it. You haven't actually been in the lab doing any tests of it. You haven't actually done any actual study of it.
Let's not beat up on it too much just because he's going to call tomorrow.
Well, I'm saying what you've done is you've heard a few scientists.
No, I think they should beat up on him because he might not call tomorrow. When you've got somebody on the line and you've got to really take care of it there and then. You can't operate on a promise that they're going to call tomorrow and we'll deal with it. No, it's best to completely sort out all their issues while they're on the line, while you've got a chance. So I think that that's actually not a very good still of forest, is it? Let's move on from it.
Talk about it, and you've come back with, well, where are the transitional fossils, or something equally banal and silly. It's like when people say, well, why are there still monkeys if we came from monkeys?
I think people that deny evolution are just completely making fools of themselves. I will say to them, when I meet them occasionally, I say, look, you realize that in biology classrooms, the theory of evolution is taught. Creationism is not taught. It's taught in religious education classrooms. It's a thing in the world of theology. It's not a thing in the world of science. You realize that in the biology departments in universities, the theory of evolution is not even a controversial thing. It's just you won't find creationists, except in incredibly rare circumstances like Michael Behe, where he works. the university has actually put up a disclaimer saying that they do not agree with his views on intelligent design. So I wonder what these people who deny evolution, do they ever ask the question, why is it being taught in all the classrooms around the world universally, except in, extreme faith schools? And why is it that it's only Christian or sort of Muslim apologetics and apologists who are arguing for creationism, and that mainstream science is not even a controversial thing? It's just embarrassing to actually call in and start talking about transitional forms.
Monkeys, or how did random chance make an eyeball, or something like that, where a lot of creationists say it, and if you're able to ask a question like that, it means you don't understand what evolution actually is. And I have a sneaking suspicion that if you were to tell me about the empirical evidence that you claim to have researched and reviewed and found a different, I have a feeling that's
well, ask him, Forrest. Don't just speculate on it. Ask him, he's there.
What the kind of thing is going to be. So
let's do this. Anthony,
that's my last thing.
Call in tomorrow with your best, when you say the empirical evidence.
I wonder if he called in. I've not checked the, is it the Skep Talk show? I'll have to see whether he did call in.
It doesn't point to evolution, or that I think you might have even said that it disproves. Whatever your position is, call in with your best argument for that. Tomorrow's the perfect day. It's Forrest and Austin's there too. Austin's great and is great at conversations too, but you're going to have an actual evolutionary biologist to talk to. And to evaluate that information and stuff.
Yeah, well, guess what? Anthony did not call Skep Talk. He did not call at all. So the opportunity was lost. And I just keep saying, I said it before and I'll say it again, especially with the amount of time they spent on this call, that if somebody does phone in and say they've got empirical evidence to debunk evolution, let them say what their reasons are. Forrest wanted to deal with it. Jimmy overruled him. Anthony did not call Skep Talk. And now I find it very unsatisfying that a theist has gone away and he hasn't had that opportunity that he called in to actually deal with his points. And it would have benefited him and it would have been a more interesting show. So, I mean, what they've done really, it's a bit like, if you meet a girl in a cafe and she says, oh, I come in here every afternoon to study and, I'm writing my thesis. And you think, oh, I like her. I'll ask her out, but not now. I'll ask her tomorrow. And then when you go in the next day, confident in the knowledge that she's going to be there, not only is she not there, but you never see her ever again in that cafe. For some reason, she never comes in again. And it's exactly the same in this situation. You've got to really deal with them when they call in, because they may never call again. They might not pluck up the courage or whatever. So yes, seize the moment, carpe diem, seize the day. Didn't happen. Okay, thanks for watching this. Let's hope that it happens in the next call. Bye for now.